Mr. Marchant is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Depending on what publication you believe, today in the United States corporations have about $2 trillion in liquidity set aside, not spending it. The Federal Reserve has expanded its balance sheet to $2.5 trillion. And it's arguable, depending on what numbers you believe, that there are hundreds of billions of dollars of profits that are still abroad that have been earned that have not been brought back to the United States. So as a Ways and Means Committee, it looks to me like one of the big opportunities that we have is to find a way to persuade that large amount of capital that is a historic amount of capital that is sitting on the sidelines now, persuading them, incentivizing them, and trying to find a way to help them convert that capital to jobs. They could do it today if they wanted to. But there is a tremendous reluctance on their part to take that capital and create jobs with it. A country that has combined austerity, budget cutting, with job creation has been Germany in the last 2 years. They have gone through a significant austerity program, yet their economy has started to grow. They're creating new jobs, and their economies have recovered. One of the fears that I have is that very soon, in the next year or so, these companies that are sitting on these assets will begin to, and you've seen it in just the last week, instead of creating new jobs, they will begin to look at mergers and acquisitions. And of course, when you look at a merger and acquisition situation, you don't really look at job expansion first. You look at consolidation of redundancy. You look at you try to exploit every inefficiency that's in the business, and usually there is not a new net job creation. What do you think that this committee should be looking at in the theme of creating jobs, which creates economic activity, which creates additional income, which you combine with austerity to bring the economy back and put us back on the footing that we have? What can we do as a committee to reach out to this liquidity and say, create jobs, help us back by creating jobs? Mr. Lazear.
Well, that's a tough question, so let me try to get at it in a couple of different ways. You talked a little bit earlier in your question about capital overseas and how that capital could be brought back to be productive. Repatriation of overseas capital is a big issue. Much of this has to do with, as you know, a complicated set of international tax issues having to do with whether we have a worldwide or a territorial tax structure. That, to me, should be embedded in a more general picture of tax reform that we ought to be talking about, taxes that are more friendly to investment, and there are a number of different ways to get at that. But again, I think that the lesson that we learn from looking at the economic literature, and there's a lot of it on this particular issue, is that the best way to enhance an economy's ability to grow and to create jobs and higher wages, by the way, is through low and efficient taxes, through an open economy, and through flexible and free markets. That's really the only way we know that works, and that's the only way we know that works historically. And so I would stick with those three prescriptions and just push everything you can do to get in that direction. Now, I know you've been talking about tax reform, significant tax reform. I hope you do push down that path. I've spent much of my career thinking about it, and I think it would be a very good way to go. Thank you, sir.
Yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. Mr. Byrd, do you care to question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.